And now, the First Alert Storm Team, live from the 13 Now digital desk. This is Tropic Topics, sponsored by Peden Heating and Air Conditioning and Mariana Toyota.
Welcome to Tropic Topics. We are on week 14, believe it or not, or at least episode 14. I think we're beyond week 14 in the tropical season. And speaking of the tropical season, we're at peak. Tomorrow, the 10th, is peak season. No surprise that it has been active thus far. Larry, which we'll get to in a minute, has actually created the highest amount of ACE for any storm that we've had really in the last 3 years. So because it has been such a long-lived major hurricane in the Atlantic. And for those that don't know, ACE is accumulated cyclone energy, or ACE for short.
I think majority of people don't know that.
Yes.
Thanks for breaking it down.
Yeah, well, okay. So ACE is a measure of which we actually talk about how much energy is consumed by the tropical season. Like last year, even though we had 30 storms, we actually didn't chew up that much ACE because we didn't have a whole lot of major long-lived storms. We had a lot of really short-lived weak storms. And speaking of short-lived weak storms, how about Mindy yesterday? As I'm going to refer to it as the rain that was named, because that's what it was yesterday. It was raining and it was named. And for most of us outside of the Franklin County coastline, all you had was rain. You didn't have anything else. You just had rain. I don't even think we had a wind gust in Bay County yesterday recorded over 30 miles an hour.
Not that I recall.
And the highest wind gust I saw was actually from the St. George Island Bridge. They got up to 57. So it did verify tropical storm strength, but mainly along the coast. Tallahassee, which had the center not but 2 hours later, didn't even have a wind gust over 35. So, yeah, I mean, one of those things where does it meet the criteria? Sure. Was it actually a storm? Yeah. Did we really have to name it? Probably not. At least in my opinion, anyways. Storms like Mindy and even Danny earlier this year, if people aren't experiencing tropical storm conditions, what's the point in naming them? I mean, when they're making landfall, I just don't get it. I get that it meets criteria, but whatever. Many people.
The first edition of Ross's Rants.
Yes, sorry. I'm starting off early on Ross's Rants, but anyways, I see a lot of people talking about what now? That kind of stuff on the WMBB feed here. This is Tropic Topics, so if this is the first time joining us, welcome. We are just doing a general discussion on the tropics. We're going to talk about what's out there. We're going to talk about the storms that we've had of the recent past. We're going to talk about rainfall, and really, we don't need any more rain. Fortunately, it looks like we're going to have a decent shot at staying mostly dry, and I say mostly dry because we're still going to have a pop-up shower or storm out there over the next 5-6 days, but we're not talking about heavy rain. Unfortunately, we may get back into a wet pattern as we get toward the end of next week, so we'll get into that too. But again, if you're just joining us the first time on Tropic Topics, welcome. I am Chief Meteorologist Ross Whitley. We have the fantastic morning meteorologist Kristen Kennedy, and Grace Thornton is on sabbatical today. No, I'm just kidding. She's just not here. She's out today. So
she is.
Good for her. I wish I was
probably
her.
Escaping somewhere where it's not raining.
Yeah. I don't know. I think she's going out of town. I think where she's headed is actually where it's going to be raining this weekend. So.
Well, good luck, Grace.
But anyways, let's move forward. Let's get right into it. We're going to go into what's going on out there now. And thankfully, we're not talking about a ton of activity. We do have a wave coming off the coast of Africa, and that's where we'll zoom in first. You can see it's a nice, strong monsoonal wave coming off of the coast there. They are giving it, I think it's up to, a 50% chance of developing over the next 5 days. Good news is modeling showing it probably turning north, so unlikely an issue for the U.S. Then you got Larry. Hurricane Larry still churning away there to the east of Bermuda. And the other little area of interest other than Depression Mindy, which is now off the coast of South Carolina, there's a little tiny wave there in Central America that might make a, I don't know, haphazard run at becoming a depression in the Bay of Campeche before running into the central Mexico. So,
yeah.
It's kind of where we are right now. Yeah, it's been a long season
it's
already.
It's It's a little quiet right now, so we'll take it.
Yes, the good news here is that while we're going to see our typical interseasonal activity, we do have the suppression phase of a Kelvin wave actually coming back in. So the MJO is going to go back to suppression as we head toward the end of September. And we hope like heck that it does its job.
Yeah.
And just calms everything the heck down. That would be fantastic. We would all be very, very happy if that was the case. So my circle is misdrawn here. That was where Mindy was yesterday. I meant to delete
That's my
that
fault.
circle.
I'm sorry. I didn't update it.
So,
But that's where Mindy was.
Yeah,
So-
ignore the circle.
Well, that's also the area we'll be watching for
That's true.
the next tropical wave.
Yeah,
coming in,
we'll be
so-
watching that area actually probably for the next couple of weeks,
Yeah.
just because that's going to continue to be an area of disturbed weather. But probably, like I said, suppression phase of the MJO. We're going to have some decent amount of shear and high pressure across the eastern half of the U.S. So probably not the most favorable environment over the Gulf over the next couple of weeks. Even that still, I mean, as we have noted, 4 times this year, anything that gets into the Gulf of Mexico is bound to spin up, whether it's weak or not. I mean, we've now had basically 3 junk storms in 4, I guess, in the Gulf this year. We had, Claudette early on, which, call it what you want. Didn't get a name until it was overland.
It was
so
like a Mindy.
it's kind of like a Mindy. Did have some impacts though. And then we had Elsa, which did briefly make it hurricane status. We had Fred.
And then
And what else? There's that 3?
Mindy was the 4th.
Oh, and Mindy. There you go. There's 4. So we had 4 basically junk storms in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's certainly possible that even through this quiet period, we get another junk storm to develop.
I'll take a junk storm.
Yeah,
Over anything else.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, low impact events, I'm okay with. I mean, obviously, out of those 4, Fred probably the most substantial, just because of the flooding threat, not
Yeah.
just here, but even up the coast as well. So I'll always take a storm that really doesn't have a whole lot of impact to our area and really the rest of the Atlantic either, or the U.S. in general. So speaking of which, why don't you talk about Mindy a little bit? I think I've ranted enough about this storm.
So Mindy was named a tropical storm yesterday afternoon as it made its way closer and closer to the Panhandle. And since then, it's only really been a rainmaker. Our forecast never changed once it was named, and we've seen it clear out. In fact, when I got to work this morning at 2:30, we didn't even have any of those tropical rain bands here in the Panhandle. It was pushing off into southern Georgia, and right now it's making its exit from Georgia back over the Atlantic Ocean as well as the East Coast. It's likely bringing some showers and storms to coastal Georgia and South Carolina, as well as creating a little bit more of a rip current situation there with some high waves as well. That's going to be the impact for the East Coast as it continues to make its way towards the east. It's tracking towards the east-northeast now at around 20 miles per hour, winds at around 35 miles per hour. And again, this is going to have really no major impact on anyone else as we continue throughout the remainder of the day today and the next several days. Now, some people may be thinking, well, can it stay over the Atlantic and redevelop into something? It's really not looking too likely right now, especially since we do have some cold fronts coming our way that are going to wrap this system up and essentially help it to deteriorate as it continues that eastward movement. So after today, we're not really looking at any impacts from the East Coast from this system, but we're going to keep an eye on those other tropical waves that are still developing. And when it comes to Hurricane Larry, I feel like we've been talking about Larry for 2 weeks now.
Larry's been one of those long trackers here, and the pressure quite impressive as it has expanded its wind field. I talked a little bit to this about last night, off the air, actually, not on the air, so this would be new to our viewers. But hurricanes, many people wonder why hurricanes go through eye wall replacements, that kind of stuff. It's all about angular momentum. It's a fancy term for saying storms are trying to conserve the wind field that they create. So the bigger the storm gets, the stronger it gets, then it has to expand that wind field in order to conserve the energy that it has absorbed. And Hurricanes are all about energy absorption, and that only happens if you've got a decent environment for it to develop, if you don't have shear ripping it apart, and of course you have plenty of warm water. Those are really the big three factors there, as well as moist air in front of it. As long as those are met, technically, once you create vorticity, it could last forever, especially over water where your friction force is extremely low.
Yeah.
Once it gets over land, friction force actually bounces out the other dynamics, and that's why we don't have tropical systems sustain their energy over land, because the friction is just too much to overcome. It doesn't have anything to do else with the other dynamics other than you're cutting off the fuel, because there's no warm water for it to be there, and friction. So those two things are what kill tropical systems once they move on land. But over water, you have low friction, you have plenty of fuel, and it's all about energy conservation. So storms that get bigger and stronger, they've got to get bigger, which means the eye wall has to replace. So it literally crushes the inside eye wall, expands the wind field, and then brings the eye wall back in to conserve that angular momentum. And Larry has been very, very efficient at doing that. At a 70-mile wide eye.
Wow.
At one point in time when it was nearly a category 4 hurricane, only made it up to category 3. So the modeling actually a little under on the intensity. Most of the modeling had category 4 for peak intensity, and it never got there. So part of that had to do with Larry just being so big. With that massive eye, it's hard to get that much energy to get it all the way up to a category 4. But yeah, 70-mile wide eye. For reference, Michael had a 15-mile wide eye in diameter. Larry had a 70. So it's insane.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So yeah, it was a big storm, but Larry's not done with its bag of tricks here. It's going to miss Bermuda. It's going to miss Canada, but I have the GFS's snowfall totals here into Greenland, and how about 65 to 70 inches of snow expected from Larry in Greenland? Yeah.
That's wild.
And what's crazy is that while it will be a post-tropical storm at that point in time, it will still have enough tropical characteristics, meaning warm core and transitioning to the cold front, that it still will be classified as a tropical storm.
That drops snowfall.
That drops snowfall. So this will be one of those bizarre cases of combining with a cold front, becoming, post-tropical and still having those tropical characteristics, and then just cold air running into the backside. There's been a couple of other cases. This isn't the only time that's ever happened. I mean, if you think back to Sandy, became post-tropical before moving ashore. It dropped 22 inches of snow in West Virginia. You've had a couple of other, Franken storms, as they like to call them, that have dropped snow on the backside thanks to cold front. So this is one of those situations here. But yeah, 65 inches of snow. That's kind of insane. But it again will not be affecting the living, I should say. Greenland is as big as it is mostly ice sheet, and there's not a ton of people that live on Greenland. There are a couple of research bases there, but that's kind of about it. So yeah, it's a little, as you can tell, why. It's a little too cold. A little too cold and snowy. But yeah, it's pretty insane. So talking rest about the current conditions, as we mentioned, the MJO is going into a suppressive phase, which should mean, and I say should, it should mean quiet activity. I do expect that we're going to see a couple MDR, that's main development region storms, over the next couple of weeks, but they really shouldn't be much of an impact to the U.S., if anything at all, mainly because of the pattern that is setting up over the U.S. So we're going to keep pushing storms away from us, not bringing them to us. For storms to come into the U.S., you want blocking or ridging across Canada and the northern Atlantic, and we don't have that right now. So that's certainly not going to be much of an issue with those main development regions. And believe it or not, the Saharan dust actually holding on pretty strong this year. Typically,
it's because I asked for it.
You asked for it. That's right.
Keep it coming.
Yeah. Typically this time of year, it's gone. Like, there's no Saharan dust out there.
I'm able to pull out the stops, okay? I made the rain stop
If you could keep Saharan dust going into the Caribbean for another 2 months, then
well, let me see what I can work out.
We'll call you a miracle worker, because
Do I get a pay raise for that?
No, we get into October, and that's when Caribbean becomes the hot spot. Yeah. So until October and November, really late September, the Caribbean is usually pretty hostile environment to be in. And then, as we are all too familiar with, we get into October, November, and then that's when you start getting the Caribbean storms. Thankfully, you also typically have cold fronts across the U.S., which means storms like to stay south. They don't like to get into the Gulf of Mexico. It can happen, but it doesn't happen all too often. So our Saharan dust out there, you can see Larry even pulling Saharan dust all the way up into Canada. I guess Larry's just doing all kinds of tricks. And then, yeah, still a nice blanket of Saharan dust out in front of it in the main development region. So if anything is going to inhibit development out there, it's going to be just fighting off dry air. But, yeah, the waters are certainly warm enough out there, and the interseasonal, meaning peak climatological period, is at its height right now. So I would expect this time of year that you produce multiple storms out there, but certainly possible. Not seeing a ton of activity out across the main development region. And our recent barrage of storms have cooled the Gulf down quite nicely. So we like seeing 82, 84 showing up across the central parts of the Gulf of Mexico this time of year, because the Gulf can be much, much, much warmer this time of year. You can have the Gulf all the way up to 86 or 87. Even some spots along the coastal areas, you could see 88, 89, maybe even 90 for those water temperatures. And thanks to all of the rain and all of the storms and all of the churning of the Gulf, it's actually pretty cool. So that is good news here. Now, for those wondering, you only need 80 degrees. That's it. So 80 degrees will sustain tropical activity, and it's certainly warm enough to continue to sustain tropical activity. But usually when we're talking about 86, 87, when we get into that category, 87 is 30 degrees Celsius. You get up into 87 and you're like, oh boy,
hope nothing comes through, because
this is some energy for that to tap into. So seeing anything under 86 and seeing a large portion under 86, that's good news. Yeah. The only portion of the Gulf that has really been untapped is that area around Texas, which, speaking of which, looks like this week, you guys, probably not talking about tropical activity, but plenty of rain out that way. Partly to do with the tropics, but certainly tropical moisture. And that rain, while not as efficient as mixing up the Gulf of Mexico as a system would be, will cool the water down. It's kind of like, all the rain, if you jump into your pool right now around, the Panhandle, it won't be as warm because of all the rain that we have had. So, yeah, certainly that's what we're talking about as far as the Gulf of Mexico goes. Still plenty of energy out there, but nothing to worry about at this moment in time. And then going into the GFS here, just to highlight a couple of the areas that we will be watching as we move forward. You see Larry progressing on off. And then right around the Bay of Campeche, right there, that's where we could see maybe a depression develop before moving into Mexico. And then you notice all of the rain up toward the Houston area. And we'll have to see if the environment becomes favorable enough to get anything to spin up around Houston. And then the next area to watch is probably going to be the Gulf Stream. This looks like an upper level low that tries to develop over the Gulf Stream, but it wouldn't be the first time that we see an upper level low actually develop into something. Also, annoyingly enough, there's a tut that is still hanging out there around the Bahamas, and that has been a pattern way too common this year. And it's not a typical pattern. We don't usually have tuts hanging out that close to the Bahamas or the peninsula of Florida. And with that, that's what's been able to pull all those monsoon waves off of South America and Central America and bring them into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's part of the reason why we've had the junk storms. It's because that's dang tut. I know, I almost said a curse word there. Yeah, that tut just keeps on bringing us bundles of joy, and I wish it would go away. But it looks like another tut's going to try to develop there, and then upper level low into the Gulf Stream. So we'll see if anything can happen out of that. But none of the models are screaming danger at this point in time. So
maybe just rain, which we don't like anyway.
Right. Speaking of which, these are our rainfall totals over the last 7 days, and you'll notice a whole lot of yellows, reds, and purples.
Colors we don't like anymore.
Yeah, we don't, and we just don't need the rain at all across our area. We've already surpassed the surplus for our yearly rainfall total. That's already happened. So we will end this year with a surplus. It's guaranteed. Even without another drop of rain. Now, certainly, if we go 5-6 weeks without rain, we'll be in a drought, even though we won't actually be in a drought. We'll just, it would be a surface drought, what they refer to as a flash drought, if we went 5-6 weeks without rain. Now, that's not the pattern we're going into. And certainly, our forecast for Mindy, non-Mindy. Right? I mean, I don't even want to say her name, right?
Mindy or whatever his name was.
Whatever the name of that storm that was out there, the rain that fell yesterday, the name of the rain that fell yesterday, known as Mindy. Our forecast was 1 to 3 inches of rain, with occasional locations picking up 2 to 4, maybe isolated amounts higher than that. That's certainly verified. There were a couple of really unfortunate locations that had some thunderstorms 2 days ago that added to those totals. But for the most part, 1 to 3 verified quite nicely, and 2 to 4 in the other locations also verified quite nicely. And that's even with us thinking that we would not have a name for the rain. Yeah. Our forecast was still verified.
Rain,
because, I mean, that's basically what the threat was. It was rain. And that's certainly what we got. Thankfully, again, we are getting some drier weather, and we certainly do not need the rain across our area. Because we are running well above average, as the next graphic will show if the next graphic comes up. You want to click yours and see if your clicker works? Click it.
I'm clicking it.
Yeah, me too.
Multiple times.
Yeah, it's not moving for us.
Do you want me to go click on the computer?
No, it's okay. We're just going to keep... Oh, there it is. Look, don't click it again.
I didn't touch it.
Yeah, so this is our percent of normal for the last 365 days.
We are acing that.
Yeah, I mean, I wish my grades had looked like this
Me too.
in school.
Some of them.
My grades did not look like this in school.
Wow, Ross, tell us how it is.
Hey, you know what? You know what they call a doctor that gets D's? A doctor.
Okay.
I'm not saying I got D's. I'm just saying, they're still a doctor, so hey. Again, speaking to which, we do not need the rain. Where we are in the season, well, tomorrow's peak day.
Peak day.
Peak day. Which,
it's all downhill from here.
That's right. And that's what Amy likes to refer to as the middle of the week, going all downhill to Friday.
There you go.
I always thought of it the other way. Maybe I'm pessimistic, like you're going uphill, like you're getting to the mountaintop. I don't know. I always thought like the mountaintop's the nice place to be, right? No?
No.
Maybe I'm just weird. And maybe it's my dyslexic
think
brain going backwards there, switching things up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now we know where it started.
Yeah, so it's all started on the backside. But yeah, going all downhill. And typically after about October 20th or so, our season really should calm down. Certainly still possible to see a storm.
Spencer prays in the background.
Yeah. It's still possible to see a storm through October. In fact, fun fact for you, Hurricane Kate made landfall in Panama City the day before Thanksgiving, and it is the latest landfalling system in the U.S. ever.
And it's a woman's name, so.
And it was Kate. Well, what does that have to do with it?
Well, women's name storms are historically more dangerous and stronger.
Really?
You didn't know that?
I did not know that. That's a new fact to me. Is that real?
I swear, that is a real fact.
Oh.
Studies.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I'm glad I could enlighten you.
Well, let's see, 2 of the 4 Category 5s were male names. Andrew, Michael.
Okay.
You had Camille, which I guess is a female name, and then Labor Day, which was unnamed.
Spencer, so, I'm not making it up.
I mean, I believe you. I'm just saying, that's a new fact to me. So that's interesting. Interesting. You learn something new every day, kids. Stay in school.
Or just watch
us.
Every week.
Yeah, watch us, because we're clearly having a good time. We appreciate all 1,000 people that are watching.
Oh yes,
because clearly not 1,000 people watching, but those that are going to watch this back, I hope that you have stayed to this point of silliness to enjoy our Tropic Topics this week. Let's do a quick recap of the season. I think I have another graphic. Maybe I don't have another graphic.
Let me click this for you.
I don't know if I have another graphic or not. This might be the end.
I thought you did. Maybe you didn't.
I thought I had the names.
No, okay, you did have the names, but you put it randomly in here. We passed through it already.
Oh, did we?
Yeah. Watch. Wait. It's right here.
Oh, hey, look at there. I knew there was another graphic.
It popped up for a second, then you went past it. That's all.
I never saw it. Well, this is where I wanted to end. So,
Well, let's just take it back.
Well, yeah, going back here, this is where we're going to end. So far this season, we've made it all the way through the M name. Again, I'm not counting Mindy. I was almost said Mandy, thanks to you.
I said it a lot today.
I'm not counting Mindy and Danny because I don't think that those were real storms, but yeah, whatever. And honestly, you could probably throw out Claudette because it created some severe weather, but
we were under a tornado watch for like almost 24
And how many tornadoes actually happened? Like
confirmed?
One?
Confirmed?
I don't think we had one.
I don't think we had any confirmed.
I don't think we had a confirmed tornado out of that
four tornado
system.
warnings.
We had 4 tornado warnings. Woo! Wicked.
Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but I mean, like, our cold fronts do that kind of severe weather. I mean,
Listen, I know.
And
just stating the facts.
Anyways.
I was there for that one.
Yes, you were. This point in time last year, we were getting ready to deal with Sally.
Oh.
So we are, even though we have run through the names.
Yeah.
We are behind last year's total by quite a large
going.
margin, which is really good news, and it's right on track with what the predictions. What is it? It's NOAA, right?
Yes.
NOAA.
NOAA.
It's not the Weather Prediction Center. NOAA, with their forecasts for this year being an active season but not a hyperactive season, we're right on track with that. Now, certainly we could still see activity.
Helps, that Mindy was named yesterday too.
Yeah, that added to the total for active. But yeah, I mean, even though we're behind as far as names go, I think we've chewed up more ace this year. Throwing it back to the beginning of the show. That's thanks to Ida, Larry, Grace, the 3 majors that we've had so far this year, those really chewing up a lot of ace. Now Grace didn't chew up that much because Grace was only a major hurricane for like 4 hours.
Don't you like how Grace has the word ace in it?
Oh, that's true. Look at there. So if what name, I'm hoping that we don't get past Peter. So that gives us, 3 more storms? I hope we only have 3 more storms.
I hope we don't get past Nicholas.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think we're gonna have at least. I think we're gonna have at least 3 more named storms out there this season.
Okay, I mean we might, but
yeah,
in a perfect world.
In a perfect world, we're done.
Yeah,
that's it. It's over. We're canceling the rest of. Oops, didn't mean to hit the mic. Sorry, Spencer. Yeah, we're done. We're canceling it. Speaking of which, let's wrap up here.
We're almost done here, too.
We're talking about a bunch of nonsense.
Everyone on their lunch break is enjoying this comedic relief.
Yes, they are. Let's see if we got any questions that are out there. As always, if you have any questions, you can always put them in the Tropic Topics comment section on wherever you were watching, whatever Facebook page you were on. If you're on mypanhandle.com, thank you for watching there. We appreciate it. But you cannot comment because we don't have a comment section on mypanhandle.com. That's not for the fault of our own. It's because our website literally doesn't have a comment section.
It's the website. Blame the website.
So there's nothing we can do about that. But yeah, we will always try to answer any questions that you post. And of course, every Thursday we're here at 1 o'clock. Somebody is here at 1 o'clock. One of the 3 of us, or all 3 of us, or 2 of the 3 of us, or any iteration of the 9 combinations.
None of us, there's a problem.
That are possible out of that 3 combinations.
Look at you.
3 individuals.
So proud.
Right?
So proud.
That was the Wonderlic test question right there. You don't know what the Wonderlic is. It's the football. They make all the football players take a test when they get into the NFL.
Ross.
I know. All right, and we're spiraling at this point. And Kristen wants to go home. So I don't see any questions. You see any questions, Spencer? No questions.
No questions. Everyone understands everything.
Everybody is omnipotent. They know everything. Big words, right? Look at Ross today pulling out vocabulary.
Who's our shout-outs? Who are we shouting out today? Miss Cora.
Miss Cora.
Thanks for watching, Miss Cora.
Is that Joey's mom?
If you are Joey's mom, comment and let us know.
And Brandy with the first comment on the board today. Brandy, whoever don't know, is from Graceville. She owns a horse. She lives on a farm up there.
Wow.
She's a frequent commenter on my Facebook page. So,
wow.
thanks for watching,
Brandy,
Brandy.
send me a horse picture on my Facebook page. I want to see this horse.
Yes, send all of the weather pictures if you don't have them to Kristen,
Yes.
or if you do take a weather picture, send them to Kristen because she needs that content.
And I love those pictures.
She does love those pictures. I only want rainbows and dog pictures. That's it. Rainbows and dogs.
Well, I gave you a rainbow this morning.
You did. I shared it.
I saw it.
I liked it. It was cool. I actually saw a circumzenal arc on the way in today.
Whoa.
I almost took a picture of it, but I was
But you
already
didn't
running
because
late.
you were driving.
And I was running
that's
late.
the safe thing to
More
do.
importantly, I was running late, so I didn't take the picture. Oh, man.
All right.
People are going to hate us by the end of this. Yeah. Why don't you wrap us up? I always wrap us up,
Yes.
so
Thank
go
you,
for it.
everyone, for watching. We appreciate your viewership and for trusting us with all the latest Tropic Topics discussions. We'll be back next Thursday at 1 o'clock Central Time. In the meantime, we hope you have a great week.
Hey, you didn't pitch our app.
And we have the app that you should download. Storm Track 13 app. It's perfect. You get all the information there. And you can also go to our website, mypanhandle.com, for the latest weather updates as well. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All
You're
right.
good.
Y'all
You
have a
nailed
good
it.
one.
Thank you for watching Tropic Topics, sponsored by Peden Heating and Air Conditioning and Marietta Toyota. Be sure to download the Storm Track 13 app today to stay up to date with all of the latest weather information. For more local news, weather, sports, and more,